All right, let's get into this story. And it is a wild one. It's about a kingdom, a really brutal injustice, and a terrifying prophecy of revenge. But you know what makes it so gripping? The waiting. A 14-year wait for a revolution that was promised to be absolute.
I mean, just think about that for a second. You see a horrific crime committed. A prophet stands up and declares that divine justice is coming for the people responsible. And then, crickets. For more than a decade. Would you still believe? Or would you just write it off as an empty threat? Well, that's the exact question sitting right at the heart of this ancient story.
So, let's set the scene. We're in the ancient northern kingdom of Israel. Now, on the surface, this place looked like a huge success. I mean, it was a major player in the region, powerful, wealthy. But if you peel back that shiny veneer, whoa, something was deeply, deeply wrong.
You've got this incredible contrast going on. On one hand, the kingdom had everything going for it, a strong military, busy trade routes, real economic muscle. But internally, it was completely rotting from the inside out. Under the rule of King Ahab and his notorious wife, Queen Jezebel, the gap between the rich and poor was massive. The powerful were crushing the poor, and corruption was just, well, it was how things got done.
You know, every story like this has a breaking point. That one moment that's just a step too far. And here, it was a piece of land, a vineyard that belonged to this innocent guy named Naboth. King Ahab wanted it, but Naboth refused to sell, said it was his family's inheritance. So Queen Jezebel arranges for Naboth to be framed for a crime he didn't commit and then stoned to death. And the king? He just takes the vineyard. It was just this stunning, shameless display of greed and power.
An act of pure evil like that, so blatant, couldn't be ignored. It provokes the kingdom's most powerful spiritual figure, the prophet Elijah, to go and confront the king face to face. And he delivers a divine judgment that was as specific as it was absolutely terrifying.
And here's the first part of that prophecy. Notice, it's not just about the king paying a price. No, this is total dynastic annihilation. Elijah declares that God will completely erase Ahab's family line from the face of the earth. So think about that. The price for one little vineyard was the end of his entire house.
But for the architect of the whole scheme, Queen Jezebel, there was an even more gruesome fate waiting for her. Not just death, but complete desecration. She wouldn't even get a burial. Her body would be eaten by stray dogs in the very city where she committed her crime. For a queen, you just can't imagine a more shocking or humiliating end.
So the prophecy is delivered. The line in the sand is drawn. And then, silence. Years start to tick by. The immediate fiery judgment you might have expected, it just doesn't happen. The tension just hangs in the air for a very, very long time. 14 years. Let that sink in. King Ahab, sure, he eventually dies in a battle, but not in the way Elijah said he would. And his sons, they just take the throne right after him. And the formidable Jezebel, she's still around, living it up as the queen mother, still incredibly powerful and influential. For all intents and purposes, it looked like Elijah's big, scary prophecy was a total dud, a failed threat. Then, after 14 years of quiet, when everyone's probably forgotten all about it, the plan suddenly clicks back into gear. But this time, it happens in secret. Elijah's gone by now, but his successor, the prophet Elisha, gets the word. It's time. Time to finally set the wheels of that old prophecy in motion. And boom, things start happening fast. Elisha sends a young prophet on this covert mission. His target? A top army commander named Jehu. The prophet finds Jehu with his officers, pulls him into a private room, pours oil on his head and tells him, "You are the new king of Israel, and your job is to destroy the house of Ahab." Then, just as he was told, he opens the door and runs for his life. It's high treason, executed in just a few minutes. Now this is the moment the whole coup could have fallen apart. Jehu walks out of the room and tells his fellow commanders what just happened. You'd expect them to arrest him, right? But they do the exact opposite. They immediately throw their cloaks on the stairs for him, they blow the trumpets, and they shout, "Jehu is king!" In an instant, the entire military leadership flips. The revolution has officially begun. With the army behind him, Jehu moves with breathtaking speed and brutality. There is no more waiting. That 14-year-old prophecy is about to be fulfilled, point by bloody point. And the precision of it all is just chilling. King Joram, Ahab's son, rides out to meet Jehu and gets an arrow shot straight through his heart. To fulfill the prophecy, Jehu specifically orders his body to be thrown onto that very plot of land that belonged to Naboth. Then he rides to the city of Jezreel. Jezebel, defiant right to the very end, is thrown out of a window by her own servants, and just as Elijah had prophesied, dogs devour her body, leaving almost nothing behind to bury.
So you see, this isn't just a story about some brutal ancient coup. According to the source, it's a profound statement about the nature of justice itself, what it is, how it works, and most importantly, how it waits.
This right here is the core takeaway. From a human point of view, 14 years of silence looks like inaction. It looks like failure. But from the perspective of this story, the delay wasn't a failure to act. It was a waiting period for the precisely appointed time. Justice wasn't forgotten. It was just on a different timetable. And when it finally arrived, it was meticulous, right down to the last detail.
And this is why this whole thing still matters. We've all looked at the world and asked this exact question, right? We see people do terrible things and they just seem to get away with it, even thrive. This story offers an ancient answer, suggesting that what looks like prosperity might just be a temporary state of affairs before an inevitable accounting.
So we'll end on this. The story paints Ahab and Jezebel as people who feared nothing, not the law, not morality, certainly not God. The only thing they feared was losing power. But if an accounting really is inevitable, no matter how long it takes, then this story asks us to completely reconsider what power really is and where the real threat lies. Is it in the temporary authority of a king, or in the unyielding, patient arc of justice?